After the absolute chaos that was Roland Garros, I think we all know better than to take anything for granted, and the top seeds at Wimbledon were feeling the same. There was more than one quest for redemption going on here this week, not to mention the quest for 25. Shaky starts, an absolute decimation of the British field, and the comeback we were all waiting for, if not the outcome we wanted. So welcome back to the All England Club, also known as Wimbledon. Let's get into it, the highs and lows of a truly special week of tennis. And also, if you're in New York City, we're hosting a watch party for the Wimbledon Finals in Brooklyn. I'll leave the link in the description and tell you more about it at the end of the video. Going into this week, I was already on the lookout for some surprises. Wimbledon's arguably the toughest slam to prepare for, and the grass favors a totally different style. And it's another natural surface slam without Carlos, which is really starting to get to me. It's just not the same without him. And without Musetti, too, who's still battling a thigh injury. Speaking of the injury prone, I was hoping this might be a big couple of weeks for Draper, but no such luck. He pulled out just the day before he was due to meet Fritz in a blockbuster first round, and left his new coach watching from the stands instead of the players' box. It's been bad for British tennis all around. Raducanu pulled out the night before Draper did, another great hope disappointed there. And then 10 Brits went out on just the opening day, winning 5 out of a total of 29 sets played. I'm not British, but for a home slam and a home crowd, ouch. And that's not the only shaky tennis we've seen this week. Medvedev lost to Jan-Lennard Struff in straights, despite these scorelines. His record at slams continues to disappoint. We lost Rublev too to qualifier Roman Safiullin in 5 sets. He's been on a tear this week, taking out Fonseca as well to prevent a rematch of that Roland Garros thriller against Djokovic. But we'll get to Novak a little bit later. And then there's Ben Shelton. With the optics of his game and everything, my hopes were so high for him. In the bottom half of the draw, his own quarter as the 4th seed, this was an ideal opportunity for a deep run. Instead, he came up short against a qualifier of his own, Otto Virtanen. Ben's spot serving was off. He was making more first serves than Virtanen, but winning less of those points, 74% to Virtanen's 80%. It sounds close, and it is relatively close, but the serve is Big Ben's weapon. He's 4th in the serve leaderboard and wins an average of 77.2% of his first serves. When that's something you rely on, even the smallest slip can get you in trouble. Virtanen kept his head and sent Big Ben packing. Fritz, meanwhile, is in great form. I really wouldn't be surprised to see him in the final, especially since he's in the bottom half of the draw. In a possible Fritz-Zverev semi, I know who I'm backing. He swept through Lajovic and Kipson, no sweat, and Sonego in 4. Big things could be coming. The same can't be said for Lerner Tien, who lost to Fucsovic. We have to note some health concerns, and Lerner was in the hospital that night, though we did see him with a burger in his arm, along with an IV. Hungry work, I guess. On the subject of health concerns. Okay, imagine you're Jannik Sinner. Your main, and some would say only, rival's been out of the game for months, including Roland Garros, where you had a shot at completing the career Grand Slam just a few months behind him. Instead, you crumbled in the literal heat in the second round. Now, at Wimbledon, you're the defending champ. The pressure is on, and there's another heat wave coming. Let's just say you're probably a little nervous. Because Sinner is usually a wall, maybe this is surprising, but in these first few matches, that's not what we've been seeing. His first round match was against Miomir Kecmanovic, who was solid and played aggressive when it counted. But this match was really on Sinner's racket, and Sinner's racket was the source of 52 unforced errors. 31 aces, sure, but we've come to expect that. We don't expect this. I've got to admit, when Kecmanovic won that 3rd set to go up 2-1, I was sure Sinner was done for. As we all know, his record in 5-setters is abysmal. And plus, when you add in a fall on the grass and a bleeding foot, this was a real battle. Still, Sinner survived it in 5. And in my opinion, and maybe this is a hot take, this is exactly the kind of match he needs to be playing early on in these tournaments. Get some real 5-setters under his belt and prove to everyone, including himself, that he can actually win them. He's young enough and in theory fit enough that he shouldn't have to worry so much about conserving energy. Obviously, if you're in his box, you'd like to see less unforced errors, but if he is going to make them, better to make them this early and come out on the other side with the rust shaken off. Still, I'm not quite sold on Sinner rolling to the title. In the next round, he defeated Borges in straights, but it didn't feel all that straightforward, just watching from my place. This is not a fun stat. In his first 2 matches last Wimbledon, he made just 14 unforced errors. In these two matches, he made 43. And this is the guy ranked second in forehand quality across the entire ATP Tour at 8.79. Something's definitely up. Against Brooksby, again, he seemed steadier, but there were still multiple breaks of his own serve, including when he was serving it out at 5-3 in the third. 26 unforced errors to Brooksby's 20, and safe to say, this isn't the Jannik we know.
Of course, let's see what's coming.
If you've been keeping up with the channel for the last week or so, you'll probably have noticed that I was doing some reporting on the ground in the UK in and around Wimbledon. This was all thanks to Midwest Racquet Sports, the sponsor for today's video. Midwest is the retailer that I go to whenever I need to re-up on any of my tennis gear, and you can even shop the look that I'm wearing right now from the Adidas Wimbledon collection. Also, for the next week, if you use my code Courtside at checkout, you'll get a free can of Slazenger Wimbledon balls on any order over $100. So support Midwest Racquet Sports, and you're supporting the channel in the process too. Maybe one of my favorite stories this week has been Grigor Dimitrov. We all remember last year's tragedy when 2 sets up on Sinner, he tore his pec and was forced to retire. Well, at 35 and after pretty major surgery, he's back, and that second round match against Mensik was a blockbuster. He saved 13 of 15 break points and really fought for it, both in the points and outside of them. After winning the third set, and with all the momentum behind him, they then closed the roof, just like in the Sinner match last year.
No, it's like a deja vu.
But this time, his body held together, and so did his head. He reclaimed an early break and took it in 4, using that stunning single-handed backhand to neutralize Mensik's forehand time and time again. It was the same story against Berrettini, who's looked great so far, but Dimitrov was greater. Again, he overcame the trauma of the roof closing and locked in on his serve to get the win in 5 sets. Plus, he also defends last year's points in reaching the round of 16. Facing the Brit Arthur Ferry, will he keep it rolling? I've got a pretty good feeling somehow. On the subject of seeking redemption, how about Novak this week? He too was shaking off some rust in his round 1 match against Wu Yibing, and there were times where he definitely got lucky. But Novak being Novak, he played himself into form, and his round 2 against Tsitsipas was an absolute masterclass.
That's ridiculous. It's one of the best games, single games I've ever seen.
He got it done in an hour 38, well in advance of the infamous Wimbledon curfew. And he even did it with a sense of humor.
Novak having some fun here with some scissors on his right arm.
His round 3 against Rinderknech wasn't so straightforward, with some weird balance issues and disappointments on serve. I'm not sure anyone was expecting Djokovic to get breadsticked on center court by a player who isn't named Sinner. Still, he made it through to equal Federer's record of 105 wins at Wimbledon. Then 106. Another battle, this time against qualifier Safiullin, who wrestled control of the baseline and by the end had Novak serve and volleying like it was 1975. Safiullin didn't help himself by standing so deep on the return, but neither did Djokovic, audibly venting his frustrations. It was in the 4th set where he took 35% of shots inside the baseline compared to 20% throughout the rest of the match that he finally focused in to find some aggression and close it out. He's on the quest for number 25, and there's a long way to go, but I don't know. At the same time, I've liked what I've seen so far from Zverev and from Sinner, so as much as I'd love to see Djokovic win that 25th, I'm not sure it's going to happen. There were some early exits on the women's side too. Roland Garros champion Mira Andreeva, who's still only 19, damn, that makes me feel old, lost out to Wimbledon's 2024 winner Barbara Krejcikova. Krejcikova's had a tough few years battling injury, so it's great to see her back in form. But I'm not sure Andreeva agreed.
That does for Andreeva, the former champion.
2-1,
Inspired
4-6,
and helped.
7-5.
Rybakina, meanwhile, isn't one to make her emotions known on court, but she's got to be disappointed with this one. Out in straights against Mertens, when this was their head-to-head. Another hopeful for the title, out early. Similarly, Anisimova battled forehand issues and lost out to Maddie Keys, an All-American clash on the 4th of July. It was Jess Pegula who came out on top against Iva Jovic, returning Jovic's serve with great variation. Iva won just 48% of points on her first serve and 44% on her second, and despite winning the first set, the numbers tell us that this could have only really gone one way. Speaking of one-way traffic, Naomi Osaka absolutely dominated Sabalenka in the round of 16, serving big and hitting cleanly. She also ended Arena's run of 21 Grand Slam tiebreaks won. In fact, until today, she'd won 7 of 8 Wimbledon tiebreaks, with the only loss on her debut. Safe to say Osaka is back in business. And then there's the big story. Let me just start by saying this. It was unreal as a tennis fan to see Serena Williams back on the court again. Don't get me wrong, I'm thrilled she got the wild card, and it was amazing to see her play. The serve, when it works, really still does work. The best in the game, and make no mistake, her aura is unmatched. She started out a little tight, but that's to be expected, not having played singles in 4 years. She amped up the intensity in the second, took it in a tiebreak, and opened the third, breaking Joint's serve. But a lucky mishit from Joint seemed to destabilize Serena.
Game Joint.
Her movement was lacking, and I noticed a hesitation on her split step, maybe to do with the knee injury she says she picked up. That, plus some double faults in crucial moments, ultimately cost her the match. For me, the jury's still out on whether this comeback is the real thing or just kind of a gimmick, but at the same time, I'm rooting for her and would love to see her be successful on the tennis court once again. That's not to say that Maya Joint didn't deliver a great performance. She absolutely did. Only then was she outclassed by a fiendish Alexandra Yala in round 2. Which leads me to one of the clashes that I was most looking forward to. Yala and Swiatek are 1 win apiece in their head-to-head, but they've never met on grass. And Yala also just so happens to be complete fire on this surface. Swiatek, meanwhile, is under a heck of a lot of pressure. She's never been able to recapture that amazing form of last year's Wimbledon, and the nerves showed in her opening match against Taylor Townsend. Double faults and some sloppy errors cost her the second set, but she regrouped for the third and burst into tears right after the win. You could see just how much it meant to her. Maybe that's the problem, the pressure. Concerning stats against Yala, 5 double faults and 44 unforced errors, particularly on the forehand side, plus a return quality of 6.3 in the first set. For context, in her first 2 matches, she was averaging 8.9, so quite the drop-off there. Swiatek kept pace in the first set to take it to a tiebreak, which she lost 11-9. 84 minutes on court and nothing to show for it, and her confidence only decreased, while Yala, well, she was just tightening up her serve. A break, a double break, a break back, and then a break again, and although Iga fought admirably on match point, this was Alex's day.
The champion is beaten.
She took it in straights to end Iga's title defense and became the first Filipina player in the Open era to reach the second week of a slam. I wonder if either of them could have predicted this back then. Week 1 of Wimbledon was absolute insanity, and I think I can speak for all of us when I say that the tennis had us on the edge of our seat. I'll be following the action from New York over the next week, so stay tuned for the Week 2 recap that should be dropping right after the finals. Also, if you're in New York, our watch party is going to be July 11th and 12th at BK Backyard in Brooklyn, so pull up. I'll leave the link in the description for tickets down below. It'll be a chance to hang out with me and some of the other creators based in New York, plus the opportunity to play some tennis, have some Wimbledon-themed drinks, and overall, just have a good time watching the Wimbledon Finals. Stay tuned for the rest of our UK content dropping on the channel and also on Open Court over the next few weeks. I had so much fun putting all of this together. Thanks again to Midwest for sponsoring this video and making this all possible in the first place. And until next time, keep going for the lines.